300 cold calls a day. 300 or you can't go home. That's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm Dan from moneyandmovement.com. I am the retired broker. So when I was at a global financial firm, I was a financial advisor. Lowest on the totem pole, lowest rung there. A rookie financial advisor, doesn't matter the firm. So what did we have to do to get clients? What did the management require of us? 300 cold calls a day before you could go home. And back before that '08 crisis, it worked. So we'd make 100 calls in the morning, 100 calls in the afternoon, and 100 calls in the evening. So it basically averaged to about 100 cold calls an hour. We'd start in the morning by calling businesses, and then we'd have a lunch because I realized when people went to lunch, I knew the exact times when I just couldn't get a hold of people. It was a waste of time. So we'd call businesses, and then we'd start calling some homes at about some residential areas, at about 11 a.m. And then we'd take a break for lunch, start calling the houses again. So what I actually did is when I ran out of businesses to call, I got my hands on a Michigan State Bar Journal. So what that is it's a list of every single licensed lawyer in the state. And I called the entire thing for the Lower Peninsula, Michigan. I called every single lawyer in the state, and I got a ton of lawyer clients. And I realized one thing, not all lawyers are rich. Some of them make 30 grand a year. Some of them didn't have a lot to invest. I got a lot of small accounts, 10, 30 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand, a lot of small accounts, but they all added up. So we did that and we just called houses. And I remember my cold call script exactly. Hey, this is Dan with firm downtown. We're currently conducting financial reviews in your area. Wanted to see when you'd have time, either Tuesday or Thursday. What would work best for you? And just let them talk. And it worked. The goal was every week I'd book a meeting a day. So eventually I'd have 5 meetings a week. And one of them would close. One of them would convert into a client. So I got a new client every week doing this. Now they weren't all big. Like I said, some of them were 30 grand. The days that I had meetings, I'd do about 200 cold calls a day. So I did this for almost 2 years until the firm I was working with went bankrupt. It was national news. Everyone knew the firm. So I remember I was cold calling one day and I was like, hey, this is Dan with XYZ firm. And the guy on the phone was like, you got to be kidding me. No way. And he hung up on me. And then I realized this probably isn't going to last forever. And being there for maybe a year and a half, maybe close to 2 years, my book wasn't big enough. I couldn't weather the storm. So I got out and I went to the bank channel. But that's what we did, 300. And, the management towards the end, they were like, look, you can't go home until you have 300. So I would work there from about, we'll say 8 to 6 or 7 at night. Maybe 6, because about 6 to 7 is when they started eating dinner, I realized, and people hated being called during dinner. So 8 o'clock to 6 or 7, and then around the same time is when I bought my first rental property. And I wrote about that in my blog, moneyandmovement.com, under the best tenant. She's been there for about 12 years. But that's the rental property I bought. So after work, I'd be in my suit. I'd go to the rental property, I'd change out of my suit into my painting clothes, and I'd paint, I'd fix, I'd do whatever I can to fix up that rental. And that was mid-2000s, maybe 2007, 2008, and I still have that property today. So I was easily working 12, 13, 14-hour days in my 20s. And that rental property, I'll tell you, that paid off much more than all these cold calls. But hey, it gives me a good story to tell. So think about that, 300 a day. What are you doing for your business? How are you gaining clients? Are you still cold calling? I don't think that works as much as it did 10, 20 years ago, but it is possible to reach that many people every single day. Let me know your thoughts. Thanks a lot.